6:45 in the second quarter. Jacksonville is trying to lean on the run, protect the lead, and Mark Brunell drops back just long enough to get punished. Kragen, nose tackle, gets home, gets the sack, and rips the ball out. That's the whole episode. One guy in the middle, doing everything right, while the game around him gets away. Release to Kragen. Welcome back to the Panthers 100. This is episode 7, and our lens player is Kragen. Today's game, Panthers at Jaguars, September 29th, 1996. Jaguars 24, Panthers 14. And today's idea, you can win the phone booth and still lose the building, and I'm documenting one game per player until I reach 100. Kragen, 6'3", 263 pounds, Utah State. Undrafted, and he carved out a real NFL life anyway. 9 seasons with the Broncos, a stop in Kansas City, and then he lands in Carolina to be exactly what a young defense needs. A veteran nose tackle who understands leverage, understands pain, and understands that your job is to make the middle of the field more expensive. 2 second-year expansion cousins, both trying to become real. Carolina comes in 3-0, Jacksonville 1-3. Carolina's actually favored on the road. Panthers by 2.5. It's 81 degrees, humidity's hanging around, winds at 8 miles an hour, and 71,537 people show up in Jacksonville to watch these two new franchises argue about who gets to grow up first. Here's the trap of this game. Carolina actually moves the ball through the air, 261 passing yards. Jacksonville throws 3 interceptions. Jacksonville gets flagged 13 times for 118 yards. Somehow Carolina still loses by 10 because the Jaguars do the oldest thing in football. They run for 179 yards, hold the ball 34-59, and make the Panthers play defense like it's a full-time job. First quarter, Jacksonville sets the terms. Jacksonville opens the scoring with James Stewart from the 1, 7-0. Then, Brunell hits Jimmy Smith for an 8-yard touchdown, 14-0, and you feel it immediately. The Jaguars are comfortable. They're not in a hurry. They're not chasing points. They're just trying to put Carolina on the treadmill. Second quarter, Carolina's offense keeps slipping. Carolina's chances in the first half come in flashes, and then they fall apart. Steve Bertline has 4 fumbles in this game, 2 lost, and in the second quarter, you can see the whole afternoon forming. At 6:45 in the second quarter, Kragen gets the sack on Brunell and forces the fumble. Lamar Lathan recovers it. That's what a veteran nose tackle doing his job, and then doing extra credit. That's the middle of the defense handing the offense a gift, and Carolina responds by continuing to treat the football like it's allergic. The kicker gut punches. Late in the half, Carolina tries to stabilize with points, and John Casey misses a 45-yard field goal. Jacksonville then ends the half by drilling a 53-yarder of their own. At halftime, it's 17-0 Jacksonville. And here's why Kragen is the lens, even in a loss. He finishes with 12 tackles, 11 solo, from the nose tackle spot. That's absurd. He has 1 sack and a forced fumble. If you'd only watched Kragen, you would think Carolina was controlling the game, because he's constantly at the point of attack. He's where runs go to get slowed down. He's where play action goes to get messy. He's the adult in the room. Third quarter, a window opens. Carolina finally gets air. Pat Terrell picks off Brunell. And then, at 10:38, Steve Bertline hits Mark Carrier for a 24-yard touchdown, 17-6. Because that extra point? No good. That missed point matters later. Not in some dramatic, if only way, but in the way it keeps the whole comeback living in the uncomfortable zone. Fourth quarter, Jacksonville reasserts the run. Early fourth, Jacksonville responds exactly the way a run team responds. They put their head down and take your breath away. James Stewart punches in a 4-yard touchdown, 24-6. And now, the math gets mean. Late comeback, Kerry Collins enters. Mark Carey becomes the whole plan. Late, Carolina turns to Kerry Collins. The drive is messy. Penalties, incompletions, the kind of football that looks like it's being assembled live. But it works. Collins finds Mark Carrier for a 3-yard touchdown. And then, Collins runs in the 2-point conversion himself, 24-14. And that's the last light Carolina sees, because Jacksonville closes the game by doing what they did all day. They hand it to James Stewart, they bleed the clock, and they force you to tackle. Final shape of the game, Jaguars rushing, 38 carries, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns. Panthers rushing, 21 carries, 57 yards, no touchdowns. Time of possession, Jacksonville wins 35-25. Jaguars had 4 turnovers, including 3 Brunell interceptions. The Panthers had 2. Penalties, Jaguars 13 for 118, Panthers 7 for 41. Carolina actually wins a bunch of categories that usually help you win, but they lose the 2 categories that decide these kinds of games: run game and clock. 179-57 rushing yards, 34-59 to 25-01 time possession. Jacksonville 4 turnovers. Carolina couldn't cash in. Missed field goal, missed extra point. Mark Carrier is the offense today. 8 catches, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns. Rasheed Muhammad, 5 for 96. For Jacksonville, it's James Stewart, 21 for 96 and 2 touchdowns. And Brunell is chaotic. A touchdown, 3 interceptions, but enough time and enough run game to survive it. This is the weird thing about 1996. Both of these new teams are better than they're supposed to be. For Carolina, this loss is a reminder that you can have a defense full of adults, Mills, Green, Kragen, and still get dragged into a game where your offense can't stop slipping. For Kragen specifically, this is the job. No glamour, no highlights, just living in the middle, forcing 1 turnover, making 12 tackles, and trying to keep the building standing. And here's the part that makes this game even more interesting in hindsight. Carolina, after this loss, this drops the Panthers to 3-1, and they turn into a real contender. They finish 12-4, take the division, and make a deep playoff run, all the way to the NFC Championship, where they finally run into the end of the road. Jacksonville after this win. The Jaguars don't become a juggernaut, they become a survivor. They grind their way to a 9-7 record, sneak into the playoffs as a wild card, and then flip the league's table. They win on the road in the postseason twice, before falling 1 game short of the Super Bowl. So this isn't just a mid-season stumble. It's a snapshot of 2 young teams learning different lessons. Carolina is learning how to be good, and Jacksonville is learning how to be dangerous. And next time, we stay right on that defensive front. Episode 8, Gerald Williams. He's starting at right defensive end in this game, lined up next to Kragen. And if Kragen's the guy holding the middle, Gerald Williams is part of the argument on the edge. Can we turn pressure into points before the clock turns into concrete? That's episode 7 of the Panthers 100, Craig Kragen. Release to Kragen. Next up, Gerald Williams. Stay kind and keep moving.